Hi guys, well today's video is going to be a recap of our most recent cruise, which was a California coastal cruise. And for those of you just joining me maybe for this specific video, or maybe you've never seen one of my cruise recaps, just very casual vlog type, me sitting down to chat about our recent cruise, just give you my overall thoughts. It may be a little all over the place. I usually try to take some notes that, things I want to mention, but usually it's just things as I think of them kind of going along. I usually get quite a few questions about each cruise we go on, especially if it's a new ship or maybe a new itinerary or people just curious. So that's kind of why I do these. I do usually have an accompanying cruise vlog, which just basically shows you all of our vacation kind of in a nutshell. That has already went up and I will link that below. And I'll, of course, list the cruising playlist, which has everything about cruises, which from anything, other recap videos to outfits to other cruise vlogs, you name it. So that'll be in that playlist. I am using my webcam today, so a little bit different if I feel like I'm looking different places, a little bit different for me. So anyway, let's just get started. We have had this cruise planned, I bet, for at least a year and a half or so. Pretty much ever since that I saw it went up available to purchase this cruise, and I saw that it was selling out very quickly because it was a limited time cruise for Royal Caribbean. We went September 26th through October 3rd, and then they were sailing again the same itinerary October 3rd and the week after. So definitely something different for Royal. I think they had came down from Alaska, was stopping in Long Beach, then going back up the coast, something for them. Then they were repositioning back to Puerto Rico, which is where Jewel of the Seas normally cruises out of. Now that was the second time being on a Radiance class ship. The first time we went on Serenade of the Seas out of New Orleans. We really liked Serenade. It's one of those ships, it's not too big, it's not too small. It's probably the smallest I'd want to go on now that we've been on bigger ships. My husband and I like bigger ships, some people don't. I just think it's a really well laid out ship. Serenade had already had the upgrades to it where Jewel has not. I don't think Jewel's scheduled until early next year maybe to get some upgrades. So things were definitely a little bit different. Jewel's definitely showing its age a little bit, but overall it was still a nice ship. And again, the Radiance class ships are really nice. I really recommend them. So basically we started out in Long Beach. I had done some research just on hotels and such. There's two different ports in Long Beach. Actually right across from our hotel we could see where a Carnival ship sat, and actually then the Queen Mary, which the Queen Mary you can book and like spend the night there. It's like a hotel, it just sits there, but they were already booked up so we couldn't do that. So that's actually the Long Beach cruise terminal, I guess, whatever they call it. And then we went out of San Pedro, which is technically the Los Angeles cruise terminal, which is very industrial. There weren't any other ships the day we sailed out. And I did a little bit of footage just showing all of the cargo containers, which was more than I've ever seen. Like Fort Lauderdale's pretty industrial, but there's a lot of cruise ships. Sometimes you see that, but I swear this was more than any I've ever seen. That is a major port for shipping coming in and out. So that was kind of neat to see. So anyway, it was a little bit more of a drive going to San Pedro, but it still only took like 15, 20 minutes. The cab ride was like a little over $20. It probably is going to depend on traffic, and there is a little bit of traffic in that area. So we stayed at the Hyatt Regency. I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I highly recommend that hotel if any of you are just going to Long Beach in general or staying in that general area. Beautiful big hotel. The room was really nice. It's right across the street from like the boardwalk area. So when we first checked in, we went over there, several restaurants, got something to eat. Nice like walking and biking trails. Like a lot of people were riding bikes around there. So it was great that you could just walk there. And then again, we took like a morning walk the next morning over there. I mean, again, tons of people riding bikes, really safe to walk around, really pretty just to look at, being on the marina. So really like that and highly recommend the Hyatt Regency see Long Beach. Now, when we left out of port, we were in a little bit different area than when we came back in. So it was the regular, cruise terminal, all that. Although we noticed, it just seemed from the get-go, you could tell that this wasn't their normal stop. So it was a little glitchy along the whole cruise, certain things. And so when we first went in, we're top tier Royal Caribbean members. So, you split up, it's platinum and above, and then like diamond and above and all that. And then everybody else checks in over here. Well, normally your top tier members check in like pretty quickly. Well, right away, everybody was complaining because that took longer than it should have. It was okay. I mean, it was a little like, that's one of the things you kind of look forward to is you get on the ship a lot quicker, when you're a top tier member of a certain cruise line. And then like in Santa Barbara, there was issues with like the tenders getting people back. Some people had like a 2-hour wait. Again, you could just tell that this was not their regular cruise, so they had some issues along the way. So that's something to think about if you're thinking about a cruise, that's not their normal itinerary. Things to keep in mind. Definitely keep your patience about you because you may run into some things like that. It didn't really bother us, but it was something you notice and something that is not normal for Royal Caribbean and other cruises we've taken with them. So let's just start our itinerary. Basically, the weather, speaking of, the weather was hotter. LA had been having like a major heat wave the week even before we got there. So LA and Santa Barbara were definitely warmer than we were expecting because we'd been checking the weather, several weeks leading up because we knew we were going to be going from warmer weather south all the way up to San Francisco, which was going to be cooler. So what we had to pack, was definitely kind of a range and bring jackets and so forth. So Santa Barbara was a little warm that day. That was our first stop. I have to say, there wasn't a lot to see or do. Again, this not being a regular stop for this ship, it was not planned out like you would see on other cruises. And of course, the ports of call are not, nobody's getting kickbacks from the cruise ship because that's not their normal port. So you could just tell there wasn't a lot to do. There was no like handouts and maps a lot of places. I think luckily Santa Barbara and Monterey probably took it upon themselves, like the city knowing the cruise was stopping there. They had tents set up giving out some information, which was nice. But anywhere else, it was like you were just on your own. If you didn't already have a tour planned or you hadn't researched on your own, it was like you just get off the ship and it was like you're just wandering around, which is a little bit different than normal. So Santa Barbara, we didn't have anything planned. And something I noticed even just taking out the, shore excursions when I booked this trip, there weren't a lot to choose from. So Santa Barbara, we just kind of walked around. That's what we'd planned to do. We knew everything was kind of in walking distance. It's a little bit far to see, like the famous courthouse and things like that. But, nice little shopping and restaurants. But really there wasn't a ton to do unless you just went there and maybe wanted to sit on the beach or whatever. We wanted to walk around, just explore. This was our first time in California in general. So not really much to say about that. The next 2 days we were in San Francisco. So we were arriving in San Francisco on day 3 about 2 p.m. We were spending the night and then not leaving until day 4 at 6 p.m. So, you think, oh, that's plenty of time. I'm going to have so much, stuff I can do. We had already booked a tour. So basically we had booked a 2-day hop on, hop off bus. And I'll put the information below. It was a really great company. It's one of the largest in San Francisco. Even if you're just going there, you can book through them. We happen to have a really good tour guide. So the first day, of course, I had shown some pictures pulling into port. The classic fog was there, but not only fog, it was overcast too. So luckily the sun comes out. We get on the tour bus. We decided to sit up top, to get a great view. The sun's out. The tour around the city, it goes over the bridge, over the Golden Gate Bridge, and then comes back. It's about 2.5 hours long. So keep in mind, we got there about 2. I think we met up at 2:30 for the tour. So it takes up a big chunk already. We had planned at first to actually do the hop on, hop off, but it seemed like no one was doing that. Everybody kind of just wanted to get the tour of the city in, and then you could go back around. But I feel like it takes such a long time to get to a stop maybe that you wanted to see earlier that I don't know. I like the idea of the hop on, hop off bus, but it seems like you'd be back on the bus then for another 30 minutes or something, maybe trying to get somewhere else. So I'm not sure that was the best way of transportation for us, but of course, never been to San Francisco, so we didn't know that. So anyway, the tour was really great. We got to see a lot of great things, all the highlights, talk about just different things that had happened, you know, like monumental earthquakes and this was here and there. So it was really great. And I'm telling you what, the tour guide was not kidding when he said, you know, you'll really start feeling the temperature change as we get closer to the bridge. I mean, I swear it felt like a 20-degree temperature change and the wind's blowing. And I mean, it is crazy cold getting ready to go over the Golden Gate Bridge. But it was so pretty. Luckily, the fog had not rolled back in for the afternoon. So we got a great view of that. Just, you know, some history about the city. So then that late afternoon when they dropped us off at the ship, we were just going to go walk back to, like, you know, Fisherman's Wharf, Pier 39 and all that, but the wind was blowing so bad by then. It was already starting to get a little bit dark again because the fog was rolling back in again. And the wind was like right at our face that we got to Pier 39 and that was it. I was like, I can't walk any further. It was so cold. It's like you're miserable. I don't remember exactly the temperature, but it was pretty cold that day because of the wind. So we just grabbed a quick bite to eat, walked around a little bit, and then headed back to the ship because we were kind of tired. Like I said, the wind and the cold, it was like you're fighting that. So I did mention in, I think, my cruise outfits video, so I felt like that one was a little bit boring this time because I mentioned the 2 nights we were in San Francisco, we didn't end up dressing for dinner. So that first night, we just ate, you know, a late dinner there at Pier 39. I don't even remember what place we ate at. It wasn't anything special, to be honest. And then walk back to the ship and whatever we ended up doing there. Well, then the next morning we had a tour. Luckily woke up. It was pretty sunny right away, which was great. We had a tour of Sausalito and Muir Woods. So we were really looking forward to that. I think the tour bus left at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, so it was fairly early. We didn't get back until like 1:30. So that was like a big chunk of our day. But that was great. Again, got to hear a lot of information, went over the Golden Gate Bridge again. You've seen some of the pictures I've posted. Got to stop and take pictures then with the bridge behind us. It was really great. And I really enjoyed seeing Sausalito. Tons of like boats and marinas there, really artsy and cute shops. I would really like to see that again. We didn't have a lot of time. It was just like a quick little shopping stop before we went on to Muir Woods. It was a little bit cloudy and chilly when we first got there, but of course, right before we're leaving in, the sun comes out. It seemed like the sun doesn't actually come out. It was sunny in the morning, then got cloudy again. The sun comes out like at 11 or noon. So we saw this cute little coffee shop though, and warmed up with like, you know, coffee, and I had a great cinnamon roll. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was right on the main street there by the water. But it was almost like an Italian bakery, and they had sandwiches and deli and just everything. Oh, it was so great. It was just so cute sitting in there, you know, looking out over the water. So loved that. Again, I would like to have more time there to like, you know, look around and everything because that was really cute. Then we went to Muir Woods, which my husband and I were really looking forward to. The ride to get there though, man, if you get motion sickness, I didn't get sick, but you know, being like in a bouncy tour bus, the winding roads to get there are crazy. It feels like you're on a ride in itself, but they're great views, and we had a really awesome time just touring, you know, through Muir Woods, and you just can't believe how tall the trees are, and the sun was out. It was nice peeking through the trees. It was great weather. I mean, that day the weather was perfect because we didn't have that wind that we had the day before. So by the time we get back, we just walked around, toured around Fisherman's Wharf, the tour bus. We all wanted to get off there, so the tour bus let us off there instead of the cruise pier. And we had lunch, I believe, at Nick's right there at Fisherman's Wharf. And everything around there, if you're not familiar, because of the sourdough bread company there, is it Boudin, I think is the name of it. I had some pictures of that too. Everybody has like the famous bread bowls or the bread from there that they serve lunch on. So my husband and I, he had like a fish sandwich on it, and I had like a crab salad on the sourdough bread, which was excellent. So again, it was a late lunch. So that night we did not eat in the dining room either. And then just walked around, you know, looked at the sea lions, all that stuff. But it seemed like our days, because getting there, you know, late afternoon the first day, and then having so much of our second day taken up with a tour, it just really didn't seem like we had a lot of time for ourselves to explore the city on our own. So that was great that we at least did get to see a lot of it the day before, you know, with the two-tiered bus, but would have liked to had more time. So then we left that evening, got some great sunset photos. I swear though, the wind had picked up that evening and we were up on the helipad. I mean, it was literally like 30+ mph winds, you know, heading under the Golden Gate Bridge again to try to get some great sunset photos. But we did get some great pictures. That wind around the bridge is crazy. And those of you who've been there, you totally know that. So anyway, then we headed down to Monterey. Monterey is gorgeous, and I would have loved to seen more of it, but again, it was so overcast that day. We actually got sprinkled on walking into town, that it just really dampened how pretty the area would look, I'm sure. Like, you know, just the water and everything looks more gray because it was so overcast. Like the whole day like threatened to rain almost. So I would like to see that area again. And if I was to go back, or if I would have known going into it, we would have rented a car and did our own 17-mile tour, you know, along the coast and Pebble Beach and all that. That was a shore excursion you could do, but we didn't pick any of the shore excursions in Monterey because they were all with something else that we didn't want to do, or that took a long period of time, and we knew we wanted to walk down and see, you know, the shops and down by the water and all that. So and again, that was one of those, you get off the ship and there's like, here you go, you know, I think we were at Fisherman's, or what, I can't remember what stop we were in. We tendered in, anyway, maybe I'll put the name if I remember, you know, so that was cute. And there was a lot of shops. And then, you know, like I said, we walked down by the aquarium and all that. The aquarium is like the big to do there. Everybody's going to the aquarium. So we knew it was going to be crowded, so we didn't go. And we've been to some really nice ones before, so we just didn't want to waste our time with that. But again, I wish we would have known, that would have been great to rent a car. Although again, it wasn't sunny, so our view on 17 Mile Drive wouldn't have been that great. But that's somewhere I would like to go back and see again, is Monterey. And then we finally had a day at sea. This was one of those cruises you're just go, 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 because you only have one day at sea. It was day 6. And then we were in Ensenada, Mexico. So that's one of those stops. It was pretty, you know, you're at the marina. It's really pretty from the cruise ship. But I would have to say that's definitely one of my least favorite stops in Mexico I've ever been to. We like Mexico. We've been on vacation in Mexico before. And then, of course, cruise stops. That one definitely was a little more dirty, and just the shops weren't as nice. You know, restaurants and things just didn't seem as nice. We were there a little early in the morning when we got off. Shops were just kind of opening. But so we came back to the ship, and we knew going in that we may use that as like a lazy day kind of thing, since we had only had the one day at sea prior. We may use that as like, you know, lounging around the ship more and just relaxing, since then the next day we were going to be going home. And sorry if I sound a little funny. I got a cold right after we got back, and I feel like I'm still kind of fighting it, so my throat sounds a little strange. Overall though, I mean, it was a really great trip. We got to see, you know, a lot of great things, because my husband and I, it's one of those we've always talked about. We don't think we'd ever just take a trip to California. You know, if he's going on business or there's a reason to go there, then we would take extra days and make a trip out of it. But it's never been anything where we felt like, oh, let's plan a trip there, because it's a pretty long flight for us. It's over 4 hours, and I hate sitting in a plane that long. I'm not a good flyer really to begin with, but I'm glad we went. And again, I was glad we got to see what we did. And again, out of the stops, I would like to definitely spend more time in San Francisco. I would like to see more of Sausalito and Monterey for sure. And then I had briefly, I think, mentioned, Actually, I think I only maybe mentioned it on my personal Facebook. There was a total debacle disembarking the ship again because they're not used to this. I just feel like it was planned really poorly. We weren't really complaining, but so many people were complaining. And definitely people, if you've been on a cruise ship, you know that's not normal. I mean, it's never the great part of getting off a ship, when you disembark. It's never the great part of the cruise, I should say. But anyway, we were at a different location because there were 2 other cruise ships in port when we came in. And it's one of those that there's nothing, no building set up, no ramp or anything. They had to put on like this makeshift ramp that obviously didn't want to adhere to the cruise ship safely because it took 2 hours before we even started disembarking. I started freaking out a little bit thinking, oh my God, I hope we don't miss our flight. Because at first we just sat on the deck and was watching all the nonsense, because our number wasn't getting called until late. We're supposed to get off the ship by like 20 after 9. We didn't get off the ship till 11 o'clock. And most people start getting off the ship usually about 7:30 in the morning, and it wasn't even until like 9 o'clock when they started getting people off. So many people are probably like missing flights, and I don't know, I felt bad for those people. Getting our luggage was easy, even though they had it just set up in tents. Anyway, that was like kind of a whole mess. It didn't ruin the cruise or anything, but for some people, maybe it did. And like I said, I felt bad for them, but that's something you hate to have happen because it kind of sours your view. You may have had a great cruise, but then when, the cruise line sends you the survey, well, guess what? That's what's going to be on your mind still is how you got off the ship and it took so late or took so long. So anyway, so that was the cruise in a nutshell. If I forgot anything, I will try to put it below. If you guys have any specific questions about it, leave me a comment below. As of right now, we do not have any other cruises planned. Again, this is one we've had planned literally, I bet, for 1.5 years, which is the longest we've ever had a cruise planned. Normally we're like a few months ahead and sometimes only a few weeks. It depends. But again, if you want to see the cruise vlog or any of my other cruising videos, that link will be below. Appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.